This episode is graciously sponsored by Hunt a Killer. If you are a subscriber of ours, you know my love and obsession with Hunt a Killer, the only subscription box that allows lovers of true crime to enter into an intricate and immersive investigatory world filled with challenging yet fun and rewarding mysteries to unravel. When I first began my Hunt a Killer subscription, I knew it would be a wonderful change of pace from my usual true crime documentaries and novels, and a welcome respite from the daily monotony of a world turned upside down. But never did I realize that this subscription box would actually bring my family and I closer together. The holidays are upon us, and this subscription box is available in monthly increments, able to be gifted to anyone at any time. It would make a perfect present for anyone between the ages of 16 and 106. Hunt a Killer's monthly episodes can be completed alone, with family, or even as a seductively suspenseful date night. The real world is scary enough. It's time to hunt a killer from the safety of your own living room. For 20% off your first box, visit huntakiller.com/Merc and enter promo code MERC today. Again, that's huntakiller.com/Merc, and don't forget to enter promo code MERC at checkout. It was Christmas time morning in 1929 when Fanny Lawson and her 6 children were brutally murdered. Victims of gunshot wounds and bludgeoning, they were found on their tobacco farm in Stokes County. The case was all but closed when the father, Charlie Lawson, shot and killed himself as first responders arrived on scene. However shocking Charlie's death was, it was nowhere near as brutal, disturbing, or horrific than what first responders would find on the Lawson property. The aftermath of a crime scene that told a story of holiday horror so brutal and so shrouded in fatal familial secrets that it would take more than 60 years for the tragic and twisted truth to finally come out. Earlier that week, in a strange and highly unusual move, Charlie Lawson decided to take his family into town to have their photos taken in a professional studio. The son of a sharecropper, Charlie Lawson saved up money to buy a 200-year-old farmhouse and surrounding land on which to raise his family and grow tobacco. The working-class farmer, who was not well off at all, surprised the family further by purchasing new clothes for his wife as well as their 4 daughters and 3 sons. These clothes were to be worn in the mysteriously planned photograph, which remained as a morbid artifact of the family's legacy. In the photo, the entire Lawson family is standing in 2 calm and eerily serious rows. Standing in the back row was 16-year-old Arthur Lawson, his older sister Marie, 17, and their parents, Fanny and Charlie, with Fanny looking morose and holding 4-month-old Mary Lou. In the front row of the photograph, the youngest of the Lawson brood, James, 4, Mabel, 7, Raymond, 2, and Carrie, 12, scowled at the camera. No specific cause has ever been provided as to why Charlie initiated this professional photo, but days later, nearly everyone in the picture would be dead. In the early hours of Christmas afternoon, the eldest daughter, Marie, baked and iced 2 layers of a cake that was to be the finishing touch of the Lawson family Christmas celebration at their farm later that day. Around that time, the 2 middle Lawson girls, Carrie, age 12, and Mabel, age 7, left to go visit their aunt and uncle's house. But in a repulsive and cowardly act unbefitting of any father, Charlie stood behind the tobacco barn that was on their property, lying in wait with a shotgun for the 2 girls to pass by. After shooting his daughters at point-blank range, the so-called father bludgeoned the 7 and 12-year-old to ensure death and stowed their lifeless bodies inside the barn. Charlie subsequently returned to his family home, where his wife, Fanny, 37, was sitting on her porch. Charlie shot his wife and then went into the house where Marie was finishing her cake. Charlie shot Marie while her panicked 2 younger brothers, mere toddlers, James, age 4, and Raymond, age 2, ran and hid. After hunting down his sons, he turned on the infant. Nobody survived. Investigators would find the remains of the 6 children and their mother, Fanny, arranged on the ground outside, with their heads propped on rocks and their arms crossed over their chests. In a strange and unclear exception, the eldest son, Arthur, age 16, had been sent by his father on a specific errand the evening before the brutal and senseless killings, thus sparing his life. When Arthur returned home from his errand to find the terrifying scene, he alerted neighbors who began to gather. Being that it was 1929, the police were not able to be called this instantaneously, and so a small crowd of onlookers had gathered at the scene before first responders could. Charlie, whose whereabouts were unknown to the gathering crowd, then took his final shot, this time aimed at himself. His only remaining son, Arthur, and a police officer who was called to the scene, found Charlie's body along with letters he had written, seemingly suicide notes, which, although they are no longer able to be found, are said to have not made any explanation in terms of motive. Investigators noted that a tree that was nearby to the murderer's body had the markings of footprints around it, as if somebody had been pacing. The funeral, attended by many, was poignantly and powerfully morbid in its arrangement. White coffins of various sizes stood propped up on stands, all lined up in a row. By the size of the coffin, it was evident which housed the youngest victims. Furthering the pain of loved ones still reeling with the death of Fanny and her 6 innocent children, Charlie's brother, Marion Lawson, seemingly a bit of a monster himself, opened the now departed family's farm home on Brook Cove Road to tourists interested in the morbid crimes that had taken place there on Christmas Day. Horrifyingly enough, and in a tactless display of callousness, the killer's brother Marion chose to display the cake that the eldest daughter, Marie, had been making for Christmas Day. The 2-layer cake, baked in the early morning of the holiday, was, unbeknownst to Marie or her family, the last thing that she would make in her short life, which would span only 17 years. The cake was eventually covered beneath glass by the killer's greedy brother, turned House of Horrors tour guide, because onlookers were plucking the raisins from it to keep as souvenirs. This tourist attraction remained as a morbid remnant of simpler times for the Lawson family, but sources close to the family, who had kept quiet for so long, reveal that the family may have not been so happy as the rest of the world had thought prior to the atrocities. Although technically the murderer was already known, Charlie Lawson had all but admitted it by committing suicide in such a public way, the actual motive behind the killings was unclear and on the minds of many for decades to come. No more so than on the minds of Bruce Jones and Trudy Smith, a father-daughter investigation duo. In 1990, after years of painstaking investigation, they were set to publish a book on the murders when something extraordinary happened. Stella Lawson Bowles came forward after 61 years to tell a startling secret. She confessed that prior to the murders, she had overheard a discussion between Stella's own mother, Jetty, and Fanny's sister-in-law, as well as Fanny's aunt. In this conversation, Stella overheard that Fanny Lawson, the mother of 6 children at the time, with her 7th born only 4 months prior to her death, had confided to relatives that she had been concerned about an incestuous relationship between her husband, Charlie, and her eldest child, Marie. Because we know that Stella's mother, Jetty, died in early 1928, and the Lawson family was murdered at the end of 1929, the fact that this conversation happened almost 2 years prior to the murders shows that this was a concern long held by Fanny, and not just an early inkling of concern. Further evidence to stipulate to this disturbing fact was produced in a true crime book, where a neighbor of the Lawsons claimed that he was aware of some serious problems going on within the family, but he refused to give more details. Another neighbor, Sam Hill, claimed that he was aware of the fact that Charlie had forced himself upon his eldest daughter. The neighbor alleges that when Marie told him of the pregnancy, he swore her to secrecy, saying that if this vow of silence were to be broken, quote, there would be some killing done. Then, in 2006, right before the manuscript was set to be published, a close friend of Marie Lawson's, Ella May, finally revealed that, a few weeks before the massacre, Marie opened up and told her that she was pregnant and that the father of the baby was her own father. Ella May recalls that, while they were having a sleepover with each other, 17-year-old Marie confessed that both her mother and father were aware of this incestuous pregnancy. No evidence of pregnancy was apparent, but scientific progress at that time did not allow for pregnancy tests in the same way that we can test victims of crimes today, and so these dark and shameful secrets were not revealed until decades later. Some apologists for Charlie say that the fact he had sustained a head injury a few months prior to his murderous rampage proves that it was not in his nature to kill. However, an autopsy and further analysis of his brain at Johns Hopkins Hospital found no evidence to support this theory. No other credible explanation, besides Marie and Charlie's pregnancy secret, stands as to why Charlie chose to end the lives of 6 of his children and his wife. His son, spared seemingly purposefully from the attack, married and had 4 children of his own, but the Lawson family's curse would continue to affect Arthur as he eventually perished in an automobile accident in 1945, leaving his children, fatherless as he had been, alone with their widowed mother. Charlie Lawson was buried in the same cemetery plot as the innocent family he viciously and brutally massacred on Christmas Day. The grave, intimidating and overbearing in its size, owing to the fact that it has the information of 7 people on it, towers over the cemetery as a not-so-subtle reminder of the past tragedies of the Lawson brood. The gravestone inscription reads, mysteriously, "Not now, but in the coming years it will be a better land. We'll read the meaning of our tears, and then sometime we'll understand." On Christmas Eve in 2008, in Covina, California, a quiet suburb of Los Angeles, 9 people were brutally murdered at what was previously a happy holiday party located at 1129 East Knollcrest Drive. Wearing a Santa suit, 45-year-old Bruce Jeffrey Pardo entered the house at approximately 11:30 p.m. Pushing a cart laden with 4 13-round capacity semi-automatic handguns, Bruce also carried with him a large wrapped Christmas present, which was actually a flamethrower he had fashioned himself. Dressed as Santa Claus, Bruce entered the home much to the excitement of his 6-year-old niece, Katrina, who gleefully ran up to greet him at the door. As she rushed to greet her uncle, he grabbed one of the handguns and promptly shot the innocent 8-year-old in the face. In response to this senseless act of violence, some partygoers came to the aid of the 8-year-old, while others fled for their lives. Bruce continued to fire indiscriminately at the panicked people left in the room, as well as those who were trying to escape. After firing for an unknown amount of time, Bruce set down his guns and then proceeded to unwrap the morbid Christmas present that he had brought. A homemade flamethrower made with racing fuel. Spraying the racing fuel all over the home, he then set the high-octane gasoline on fire, which quickly turned the house into a blazing inferno. A 20-year-old woman suffered minor injuries when she jumped out the second-story window of the now-on-fire house to save herself. A 16-year-old was shot in her back but survived. The young child who was shot in the face would miraculously survive her serious injuries, but 9 other people in attendance were not so fortunate. Based on some of the injuries, investigators speculate that Bruce killed some execution style while standing over their bodies. One survivor of the massacre was able to escape the home and run to a neighbor's house to call the police. The ensuing fire's flames reached heights of 40 to 50 feet and took nearly 80 firefighters to put out. This was due to the type and sheer amount of accelerant used. Due to the intensity of the flames, the bodies of the victims were unable to be recovered until after the house had been extinguished. Due to this unfortunate circumstance, the victims had to be identified by dental and medical records. Once the house was able to be entered and the victims recovered, it was discovered that Bruce had shot and killed his ex-wife of only 1 week, Sylvia Ortega Pardo, her maiden name was Orza, age 43, as well as his now ex-mother-in-law, the mother of Sylvia, Alicia Ortega, who, at 70 years of age, received fatal gunshot wounds to the stomach. Bruce also turned the gun on his father-in-law, who died of multiple gunshot wounds to various parts of his body. In addition to those who died of execution-style gunshot wounds, 6 others died from the ensuing fire and smoke inhalation. Charles Ortega, 49, Sherry Lynn Ortega, 45, James Ortega, 51, Teresa Ortega, 52, Alicia Ortega Ortiz, 46, and Michael Andre Ortiz, Bruce's nephew, only 17 years old at the time of his death and the youngest victim of the Christmas massacre. In addition to the 9 murder victims, 2 children lost one parent, and an estimated 13 children were tragically orphaned as a result of these heinous murders. After his reign of pain and chaos, Bruce calmly got out of his Santa suit and into his street clothes, which he had packed ahead of time. He then got into his rental car, a Dodge Caliber, and drove to the house of his brother, who was not at home at the time, in Sylmar, California, about a 30-minute drive from the crime scene. It was in his brother's home that he made the cowardly decision to take his own life and died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Because the cheap polyester fabric of the red and white Santa suit had partially melted, adhering to his skin, the suit was never truly taken off, and remnants of the false holiday cheer would be found adhered to his skin long after death. His body was found with $17,000 in cash wrapped in a girdle attached to his leg. His rental car was parked 1 block away from his brother's home, and it had been seemingly booby-trapped so that anyone who attempted to touch the remnants of the Santa suit or anything else in the car would perish in a fiery blaze courtesy of black powder, a temperamental explosive. Seeing the threat for what it was, the bomb squad was able to shoot an incendiary device into the Dodge Caliber, which destroyed the imminent threat but also destroyed precious evidence that may have answered some of the investigators' questions. The 4 semi-automatic handguns that he had brought with him to the Christmas party were found near Bruce's lifeless body, packed with at least 200 rounds of ammunition. While police initially thought that Bruce had plans to flee to Canada because of a ticket he had purchased from Air Canada in the days leading up to the attack, it was later discovered to be a domestic flight that would have taken him from LA to Moline, Illinois. It was discovered that Bruce had called an old friend of his from high school to tell him that he would be visiting in the next few days. He had previously visited this friend back in October of 2008, but as Bruce took the cowardly way out prior to the flight, we will never know if this supposed trip was a red herring or if his plans simply changed after his senseless killing of 9 people. Back at the residence of Bruce Pardo, officers found what they described as a virtual bomb factory. It contained, in addition to various explosive materials, as well as the empty high-octane fuel container, empty boxes of 5 semi-automatic handguns. It is unclear if the 5th handgun was ever recovered, and also had a Benelli M2 tactical shotgun. A prior student of John H. Francis Polytechnic High School in Sun Valley, Los Angeles, and a graduate of Cal State Northridge, the would-be killer had worked at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in La Canada, Flint Ridge. He had met his soon-to-be wife back in 2004, 4 years prior to the massacre. After a less than 2-year-long courtship, the couple wed in January of 2006, but marital problems arose almost instantly. The marital issues described by those closest to the couple surrounded the issue of finances. Bruce refused to open a joint account with his new wife, Sylvia, and expected her to pay for all the expenses of her 3 children from a previous marriage, all on her own, without the help or support of her new husband. In June of 2008, less than 2 years after the couple had married and just 6 months before the tragic Christmas killings would occur, Los Angeles County Divorce Court ruled that Bruce needed to pay Sylvia $1,785 a month as spousal support. Bruce, to his dismay, was also made to pay a one-time payment of $10,000 to cover Sylvia's building a new life, separate from him. The courts, using an algorithm which took into account Bruce's current income and previous tax returns, calculated the spousal support number objectively. But unsurprisingly to those who knew him, Bruce thought that this government-ordered aid to his wife was patently unfair and morally unjust. 1 month later, he would be fired from his job. The reason is not known, but he was at fault and not simply laid off. Sources close to the family say Bruce was irate that his soon-to-be ex-wife was receiving spousal support when he believed she didn't actually need it. He angrily claimed that she was living with her parents rent-free and was using the money that he gave her lavishly and irresponsibly, with Bruce claiming that she was using it to buy a luxury car, spa treatments, golf lessons, and multiple trips to Las Vegas to gamble. With little to go on in terms of murder, investigators honed in on the recent divorce between Bruce and Sylvia, as it had happened just 1 week prior, on December 18th. Some people close to the family speculated that Bruce had concealed from Sylvia the existence of a child from a previous relationship. That child was, strangely enough, severely injured from an accident which had happened in a swimming pool. No publicly accessible information surrounds this unusual injury, and there's no information as to whether Bruce may have been responsible for that misfortune as well. In July of that same year, Bruce had been fired as an electrical engineer from ITT Electronic and Radar Systems. No further evidence was found to explain the motive of the so-called Santa shooter, and this crime lives in the minds of many as countless living victims of Bruce Pardo's evil still suffer today.